All right, so we're going to dive into something today that you might have experienced, even if you didn't realize it had a name.
Interesting.
It's called embedded insurance.
Okay.
Ever booked a flight and then, like, right there in the app, you're offered travel insurance?
Oh, yeah?
Or
Yeah.
buying something online and they're like, hey, want an extended warranty right now at checkout?
Mm-hmm.
That's embedded insurance.
Interesting.
So today we're going to take a deep dive into this.
Sounds good.
We're going to look at what it is, why it's important, and really how it's changing insurance,
Okay.
especially for people who maybe traditionally haven't had easy access to insurance.
Got it.
Now, the source material for this is from a company called B4E Insurtech.
Okay.
They're kind of making waves in this space.
I see.
So we'll be looking at their perspective and what their platform offers.
Okay, well, what I find fascinating about embedded insurance is how it just kind of blends into our digital lives. The source from B4E Insurtech defines it as the integration of pre-underwritten rule-based insurance products into digital platforms.
Okay.
Now, that might sound a little jargony, but basically it means that instead of buying insurance separately, it's offered to you right there in other online experiences.
Yeah, so it's less about insurance being this like
Right.
separate clunky thing you got to do and more about it being woven into our digital lives.
Exactly. And pre-underwritten just means that the policy is already set up based on these predefined rules.
Okay.
And those rules basically assess your eligibility based on the situation.
Gotcha.
Like, say you're buying a smartphone.
Hmm.
The rule might be like anyone who buys that model is eligible for an extended warranty for like if they drop it and break it.
Right.
Makes it super simple. You just click a button, you add the coverage.
So it's not just about convenience, it's also about making it
Yeah.
more accessible.
Totally.
And they highlight in the source how B4E Insurtech is focusing on reaching what they call underserved populations.
Yeah.
Like immigrants and expats.
Well, think about it. If you move to a new country,
Yeah.
figuring out their insurance system
No,
is
it's a nightmare.
yeah. Embedded insurance can be a bridge there by offering you coverage right when you're setting up a bank account or, signing a lease
Right.
or even booking a flight.
Oh, that makes sense.
Removes those barriers and you can more easily get the protection you need.
Yeah, that's huge, especially for the amount of people who relocate for work or other reasons. And it's interesting that B4E Insurtech is focusing on regions like the Gulf Cooperation Council or GCC,
Mm-hmm.
Southeast Asia, and Europe.
Right.
So it's not just a trend in like one part of the world. It's
global.
it's global.
Yeah, this technology has the potential to make insurance more inclusive and accessible for everyone.
It's like democratizing access by breaking down those barriers.
Totally.
But let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
Why should insurers care about this? Like, what's the advantage for them?
Well, their source material highlights several benefits.
Okay.
First, it makes launching new insurance products much faster and more efficient.
Right.
Instead of building their own complex infrastructure, insurers can just use B4E's existing platform
Okay.
and plug in their offerings
I see.
so they can reach the market quicker and start making money faster.
So it's streamlining the development and reducing upfront costs.
Exactly.
But how does that benefit, like me, the average person?
Well, it could mean you get faster access to a wider range of products,
Okay.
potentially even at lower prices.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. The cost savings that insurers get through this platform can be passed on to customers as more competitive premiums.
So instead of like hunting down different insurance policies separately, I might just be offered the relevant coverage right when I need it.
Yeah, like right there while you're doing other things online.
Like if I was signing a lease online, I could also get renter's insurance at the same time.
Right, or getting travel insurance when you book your flight.
Oh, that's super convenient.
Yeah, it is. And that ease of access is super important for, those underserved markets we talked about.
Okay, right.
Immigrants and expats, they often face higher hurdles getting traditional insurance.
Yeah.
So this could make a big difference for them.
It's all about making insurance less of a hassle and more a part of our digital lives.
Exactly.
And speaking of making things easier, the source also dives into some real-world results
Yeah.
that companies are seeing using their platform.
They highlight faster product launches, which we already touched on,
Right.
but also reduced operational costs
Okay.
and a significant improvement in getting new customers.
So they're not just saving money, they're also getting more customers.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like they're making the whole customer journey smoother and more appealing.
Yeah, when insurance is just a natural part of something else I'm already doing online, it feels less like a chore,
Right.
and I'm more likely to say yes.
And that can make a big difference in attracting and keeping customers.
Yeah, instead of being like an afterthought, it becomes like a value add. So it's a win-win.
I think so.
Insurers benefit from the increased efficiency and reach, and we get the convenience, affordability, and choice.
Yep.
But I'm curious, beyond what's mentioned in the source, what other potential benefits do you see coming out of this shift towards embedded insurance?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think one of the most exciting possibilities is the personalization.
Okay.
As companies learn more about us, our online behaviors, and what we like, they can tailor insurance offerings to our specific needs in a way that just wasn't possible before.
Oh, I see.
Imagine car insurance that considers your driving habits from like a telematics app on your phone.
Oh, wow.
Or travel insurance that adjusts based on like your itinerary and your past trips.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost like moving towards insurance that's not just reactive, covering you for risks,
Right.
but proactive, anticipating what you need and offering custom solutions.
Exactly.
But that does make me think about data privacy.
Right?
Like, how is that information being used?
Yeah, that's an important question.
We'll have to dive into that more in the next part.
Definitely.
But for now, let's stick with the upsides.
Okay.
What else?
Well, I think another big benefit is that it could create whole new types of insurance
Interesting.
that are more relevant to how we live and work today. Our lives are increasingly digital, so our insurance needs are changing too.
Right.
Embedded insurance lets us develop these new solutions that cater to those emerging needs.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But before we jump too far into the future,
Okay.
let's get back to the present.
Right.
How is B4E Insurtech making all of this happen?
Good question.
Like, what does their platform actually look like in action?
So essentially, they're like a bridge between insurers and all these different digital platforms where they want to embed their products.
I see.
Imagine it like a universal adapter for embedded insurance.
Okay.
Instead of each insurer having to build their own integrations with every website or app,
Right.
they can just use B4E's network and plug in their offerings seamlessly.
So it's like they're providing the infrastructure and connections to help reach a wider audience
Exactly.
and offer their products in a more targeted and convenient way.
Yeah, and this is crucial when you think about the global scale they're operating at, targeting places like the GCC, Southeast Asia, and Europe,
Right.
where traditional insurance might struggle to reach certain people.
Yeah.
By making it easier for insurers to tap into those markets, they're creating business opportunities, but also potentially driving greater financial inclusion for millions of people.
It's like they're democratizing access to insurance by removing those barriers.
Exactly.
And the results they're showing, the faster launches, lower costs, the better customer acquisition.
Right.
That's all good evidence that it's working.
Absolutely. It's not just a good idea. It's actually working.
So we're not just talking about a niche trend here.
Right.
We're potentially seeing the start of a major shift in how we buy and sell insurance.
Yeah, it's exciting.
But before we get too carried away,
Okay.
let's look at the other side of the coin. In the next part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
we'll explore the potential risks and challenges of embedded insurance.
That's important.
Yeah, we talked about data privacy, algorithmic bias,
Right.
and other potential downsides.
Yeah, those are important to consider too.
Because every new technology has its benefits and its downsides.
I agree.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into that darker side of embedded insurance.
It'll be interesting.
I think so too.
Welcome back to our deep dive on embedded insurance.
Yeah, so in part 1,
Right.
we really focused on the potential benefits.
Like the convenience.
Right, smoother experience, wider access,
Yeah.
but like with anything new.
There's always another side to consider.
Exactly, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No.
So embedded insurance, while it offers convenience and reaches people traditional insurance might miss,
Yeah.
it also raises some questions.
Yeah.
Questions about data privacy,
Mhm.
about fairness,
Right.
even potential downsides we haven't thought about.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's
explore that.
yeah, let's dive into that a little bit.
Okay.
So one of the biggest concerns I have with embedded insurance is the amount of data involved.
Yeah.
To offer personalized and context-specific,
Right.
companies need information.
They do.
Not just my name and address,
Right.
but potentially my browsing history, my purchases,
Yeah.
even my social media
That
activity.
can be a lot.
Hold on. My online shopping sprees could affect my insurance rates.
Well, not exactly.
Oh, okay.
But you highlight the point.
Yeah.
All this data paints a really detailed picture of our lives.
Yeah.
And while that allows for that personalization we talked about,
Right.
it also raises concerns about who has access to it,
Yeah.
how it's being used,
Right.
and what protections are in place to prevent misuse.
It's like I'm opening up my entire digital life to these companies.
Yeah, you could see it that way.
What's to stop them from, like, selling this data or using it for things I didn't agree to.
Right. Or having it hacked.
Oh, yeah.
That's a possibility. So we need things like robust data privacy regulations.
Okay.
And clear ways to consent to how your data is used.
Right.
And very strong security measures to protect this information.
So do we have all of that in place right now?
Unfortunately, in many parts of the world, those safeguards aren't quite there yet.
So we're kind of leaping into this new world without a safety net.
Well, regulations often lag behind how fast technology changes.
That is a little bit unnerving.
Yeah, and
it's not just about like protecting data from misuse.
You're right.
It's also about making sure that the algorithms that assess risk and decide pricing are fair and unbiased.
You're hitting on another key concern there, algorithmic bias.
Yeah.
So these algorithms, they learn from huge data sets.
Right.
But if those data sets reflect existing societal biases, then the algorithms can just perpetuate them.
Okay, so give me an example.
Okay, so imagine an algorithm used for car insurance.
Right.
It's trained on data that shows statistically drivers in certain zip codes have more accidents.
Now, that might be because of things like traffic or road conditions.
Yeah.
Not because those drivers are worse.
Right.
But the algorithm doesn't see those nuances.
Yeah.
So it might unfairly charge everyone from that zip code more.
So people are being judged not on their individual merits, but on
generalizations.
Yeah, generalizations based on where they live.
Exactly.
That just doesn't seem right.
No, it doesn't.
And this problem gets even more complex with embedded insurance because these algorithms...
They're often hidden.
Right. They're working in the background.
Yeah, transparency is really important here.
So how do we fix that?
Well, with traditional insurance, you get a policy document that outlines your coverage.
Right.
But with embedded insurance, the terms might be buried in a long user agreement.
Oh, those things that nobody reads.
Yeah, most people just click through them.
Yeah, because they're so long.
Right, and that lack of transparency can create problems later on.
Like if you need to file a claim and you're not covered for what you thought you were.
It's like buying something with a hidden defect.
Yeah, you only find out there's a problem when it's too late.
Exactly. And here's another thing that worries me.
Okay, what's that?
Pressure tactics.
Oh, you mean like consumers feeling pressured to buy coverage they don't actually need?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a valid concern, especially with embedded insurance.
Because it's often presented right when you're in the middle of doing something else.
You're already in the flow of another transaction.
Exactly like booking a flight.
Okay.
I'm all excited about my trip.
Yeah.
I've picked my seats. And then, bam, a pop-up urges me to add travel insurance.
And it's easy to just click yes without thinking.
Right. Especially if they're playing on my fears.
Yeah, like highlighting the risks of lost luggage. Or medical emergencies.
Right.
Making it seem like you'd be crazy not to buy it.
It's like those impulse buys at the checkout counter.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't need that candy bar, but it was right there.
It happens.
So how do we address all of these potential downsides?
That's the big question.
It seems like we're walking a tightrope.
Yeah, you could say that.
Balancing the benefits with the need to protect consumers.
And ensure fairness.
Right.
Yeah, it's complex. There are no easy answers.
Okay.
But I think awareness is a first step.
Okay.
Consumers need to understand how it all works.
Yeah.
What data is collected, what questions to ask.
Right.
We need to empower people to be smart about this.
So education is key.
Yes.
And that's where resources like this podcast come in.
Exactly.
We need to shed light on these new trends, explore both the pros and cons,
right.
Help people make informed decisions.
I agree.
But it can't just be about individual responsibility.
You're right.
Regulators also have a role to play here.
Definitely.
They need to set clear guidelines.
For data privacy,
right.
Algorithmic transparency, consumer disclosures.
Yeah, make sure companies are playing by the rules.
Like a referee.
Exactly, a referee for the game.
I like that.
But let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
We've talked about consumers.
Right.
What about the impact on the insurance industry itself?
That's another important aspect.
Embedded insurance could really disrupt things.
Oh, absolutely.
As more insurance is sold through these third-party platforms,
right.
Traditional insurers might start to lose market share.
Like what happened with e-commerce and those brick-and-mortar stores.
Exactly. The way we buy insurance is changing.
And not everyone will adapt.
Right. And that brings up concerns about competition and innovation.
Yeah.
Will this lead to, like, a few big players controlling everything?
It could.
Or will it force the traditional companies to become more efficient and customer-focused?
We'll have to see.
It's a fascinating time to be watching this industry.
I agree. It's very dynamic.
Okay, so we've explored the risks and the challenges.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But what about the future?
Well, in part 3, we'll look ahead and dive into what the future of embedded insurance might hold.
Okay.
We'll explore new technologies that could revolutionize things even further and consider the broader implications for everyone.
So stay tuned as we journey into the exciting
And maybe a little bit unnerving.
future of embedded insurance. All right, so welcome back to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
In the previous parts, we really dug into what embedded insurance is, why it's becoming so popular, and even some of the potential downsides.
It's important to consider both sides.
Exactly. But now let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and look ahead.
To the future.
Yeah. What could the future hold for embedded insurance?
Well, it's not just about like small improvements here and there.
Yeah.
It's about a fundamental change in how insurance works.
Okay.
How it's designed, delivered, experienced.
So like a paradigm shift.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking
Yeah.
about insurance that's more personalized, more
Yeah.
proactive, and more integrated into our everyday lives.
Okay, paint me a picture. What would that look like?
Imagine a world where insurance is practically invisible.
Invisible.
Yeah, it's not something you have to actively think about or shop for.
Mm.
It's just bundled with the services you use every day, and it adapts to your needs and behaviors.
So instead of having like separate policies for my car, my home, travel,
Right.
it's all just like seamlessly integrated.
Exactly.
Wow.
Your car could come with insurance that adjusts the price based on how you drive.
Oh, like using that telematics data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your home security system could be linked to your home insurance,
Interesting.
giving you discounts for being proactive about safety.
Mm-hmm.
Even your wearables could play a role.
My smartwatch.
Yeah, things like that.
Wow.
Your life insurance could adjust based on your health data.
That's both amazing and a little creepy.
Yeah, I get that.
It sounds super convenient,
It would be.
but it makes me think about those privacy concerns we discussed earlier.
Right, the more data that's shared, the more potential there is for it to be misused.
Exactly.
So yeah, those ethical questions about data privacy and algorithmic bias, they're only going to become more important as this technology develops. But let's focus on the good stuff for a minute.
Okay.
This integration and personalization could make insurance much more accessible.
Affordable.
Yeah, for people who haven't always been able to get it easily.
Okay, can you give me an example of how that might work?
Sure. So imagine someone who has a health condition that's made it hard for them to get life insurance in the past.
Right.
Now, with data from their wearables and medical devices,
Okay.
insurers can get a much clearer picture of their actual health.
Oh, I see.
They might see that this person is managing their condition well, which could lead to a better assessment and maybe even access to coverage they were denied before.
That's really powerful.
It is.
Using technology to make things more inclusive,
Exactly.
but the technology itself is always changing too.
Oh, absolutely.
What's coming down the pike that could shake things up even more?
Well, one word,
Blockchain.
blockchain.
Yeah. Right now, insurance is kind of notoriously slow.
Well, tell me about it.
Claims can take weeks to process.
Right.
Verification is a pain.
Mm-hmm.
Blockchain can streamline all of that,
Okay.
make it almost instant and much more secure.
So, like, I could file a travel insurance claim
Right.
and get paid before my delayed luggage even shows up.
It's not impossible.
That would be amazing.
It goes beyond just speed.
Okay.
Blockchain allows for these things called smart contracts.
Smart contract.
They're basically self-executing contracts,
Ah.
so they automatically trigger payments when certain things happen.
Okay, so like if my flight is delayed,
Right.
the smart contract linked to my travel insurance
Mm-hmm.
would see that delay confirmed by the airline
Yep.
and just pay me automatically.
That's the idea.
Wow.
And all that automation can really cut costs for insurers.
Which could mean lower prices for us.
Exactly.
But it does make me wonder who controls these contracts.
Right.
Who makes sure they're fair?
Good point.
And what happens if there's a dispute?
Yeah, those are all important things to consider.
We can't just blindly trust the robots.
Definitely not. But there's another big tech shift that could have a huge impact.
Oh, yeah.
AI-powered insurance agents.
That's a big one.
So are you saying robots are taking over the insurance industry?
Not taking over,
Okay.
but definitely changing it.
Yep.
AI can handle a lot of the routine tasks.
Like what?
Answering basic questions, giving quotes,
Mm-hmm.
even processing simple claims.
Okay, so it frees up the human agents
Yeah.
to deal with complicated stuff.
Yeah, the things AI can't do yet.
So it's not about replacing jobs, but making them more efficient.
And more human-centric.
I like that.
It could be a better experience for everyone.
Customers get faster service,
247 availability,
and agents can focus on building relationships.
and giving expert advice.
But that means people will need to learn new skills.
Yes, retraining and upskilling will be crucial.
This is a lot to think about.
It is.
If we zoom out a bit,
Okay.
what does all this mean for the average person in, say, 5 or 10 years?
Well, it's likely that insurance will just become even more integrated into our lives, running in the background, anticipating our needs, and protecting us without us even realizing it.
Wow.
It'll be less about buying separate policies and more about having a whole set of personalized services.
Tailored to our specific needs.
Exactly.
That sounds amazing, but also a bit overwhelming.
Yeah. It's a lot to process.
It raises all these questions about transparency and control and accountability.
Right.
How do we make sure we're not just blindly trusting these algorithms with our money and our well-being?
That's where education and awareness are key.
Right.
We need to understand how this stuff works,
Mm-hmm.
what data they're using, what our rights are.
Right.
We need to be active participants in shaping this future.
Not just passengers along for the ride.
Exactly.
Which is a great reminder of why we do this deep dive.
I agree.
The more we understand,
Mhm.
the better equipped we are to deal with this rapidly changing world.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts to leave our listeners pondering?
Okay, here's a big one. If insurance becomes this personalized, proactive force in our lives,
Okay. What does that mean for its role in society? Interesting. Does it just protect us financially? Or could it actually encourage us to live healthier lives, make more sustainable choices, be more socially responsible?
insurance as a force for good.
It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for walking us through all of this.
Of course.
It's been quite a journey,
It has.
from the present to the potential problems and all the possibilities that are out there.
The future of insurance is definitely uncertain,
Yeah, it's still being written.
but it's a story worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening.